What's up, E.D.G family? Kevin here, and if you're new to the channel, welcome to Eat, Drink, Game. The channel, we talk board games, we do some tastings, and eventually, hopefully, I'll have some tasty recipes for you guys to bring to game night. But today, we're talking Final Girl. We're not even talking Final Girl Series 2, we're talking Final Girl Series 3. What do we know about it? What would we like to see in it? I don't know. I have a ton of Final Girl stuff, to be completely honest, so there's gonna have to be some incredible things to bring me in to get a whole nother big box of Final Girl. I do love some Final Girl. I just have so much to play still and some more playthroughs to do. But we're going to be doing that. We're going to be doing a tasting. I have this very thematic craft here called Terror from the Deep. So I'm hoping all the VRG fans will definitely appreciate that. It is a double IPA. But I am going to get that taken care of so we can get this speculation uncanned. Alright, well, I'm going to start this off by saying, if you don't want to miss Final Girl content, I got a lot of Final Girl content coming. Make sure you subscribe. If you want to see more Final Girl content, leave me a like, because then I will get right on that, and I will just get some more Final... I'll just be play, and some Final Girl. We'll see how that happens. But otherwise, if you got speculations of your own things you would like to see coming in to Series 3, leave me a comment. Let me know. Let me know if I don't know something you know, because... that'll be frustrating. I'm doing a video on this and you guys all know way more about this. I don't know. I might not know the latest and greatest, but what I do know, we're going to talk about right now. So I do want to show off this amazing can art because I love grabbing thematic craft beers. So when I can line this up with a conversation, with a playthrough, you know I will do it. So this is Space Camper Terror from the Deep. This is from Boulevard Brewing Company out of Kansas City, Missouri. And I will tell you, this is not a blind tasting. I've already had this. It's fantastic. It is probably the best double IPA I've had in a very long while. But it's not all about the beer. We're going to be talking Final Girl. So what do we actually know about Final Girl? Well, I'll tell you. We know quite a few things. We know what's coming this year. We know they didn't want to rush this, kind of like they did Season 2. To say rushing it, I really just mean they didn't want to release it too far behind Season 1. Series 1. My apologies. So what do we know? Well, we do know they are already in work on some of these. They're worked on number 11 feature film is already finishing beta testing and currently in art production. If you're curious about where these updates came from, this is from Final Girl Series 2 Kickstarter update number 46. I'm also sure there's probably some stuff over on the Discord as well. So we have Final Girl 11 finishing beta testing and currently in art production. Final Girl feature 12 finished beta testing, preparing to go to beta, finished alpha testing, preparing to go to beta testing and currently in art production. 13's in design phase, preparing to go to alpha testing. 14's testing development complete and art production and ready for final layout. And number 15 is finished alpha testing, preparing to go to beta testing and currently in art production. I don't see too much stuff. I don't see anything on the vignette. So, very exciting. So we do know that this stuff is already in the works from Ryder Games, which is fantastic. It means they're already putting a lot of thought into what they want to bring to the series. A series that already has so much to offer. But for me, there's a few things I think we could probably add in a feature that would definitely bring me back for Series 3. You know, very couple things that they just haven't quite got to yet. I don't know if they will. I don't know if they're plans. Chances are, everything I say, not even going to be available for Series 3 because they already have their own ideas, which is great. Hopefully, maybe some of these will be things we could see down the road, though. So, I do want to put that out there. This is purely speculation. These are things I would like to bring to Final Girl. And, you know, at the very least, maybe some of you out there in agreement, some of you maybe think these ideas are just crazy, and, you know, maybe the people at Ryder Games, AJ included, will find this, you know, semi-entertaining. That is the goal. But I'm going to nose this real quick. It is, has a very good tropical citrusy balance to hops. I'll tell you right now, this guy right now, for being a double IPA, It's very drinkable. It is an 8.0 though. I'm going to tell you right now. It is 8%, 8%. Yeah, 8.0, but it's only a 35 IBU. You know what that is? That's your index bitter units. And that means it's not quite as hoppy as like a 65 IBU. But we're going to get through here. I have a list. I have a cheat list because I couldn't remember all this stuff. And I'm going to start out with one of the features I would like to see in the future. Maybe Series 3. Maybe, you know, they're ahead of me and they're like, oh man, we're missing this. We need to add it. And the first one I would like to mention is some kind of cybernetic robot. Think Terminator. Think maybe, you know, crazy robot like 2001 Space Odyssey. You know, just, you know, some kind of menacing cybernetic android that obviously is trying to destroy you. I think that would be a great concept. I also think we could get some ideas playing off of both of those. Both of those IPs, we could be bringing in maybe some kind of time travel element, you know, maybe something that, there's a card, you know, maybe in the killer deck that resets the setup. I mean, just right from the get-go. Your horror is where it's at, your, you know, everyone he's already taken out, your bloodlust level, but all of a sudden, we're going back to the beginning, setup is reset, more victims, you know, and just another way for the killer to bring more victims on to take them out. So that is one idea I have. Obviously, I think it would be really cool to maybe do it in like a factory location, you know, something where you can manipulate movement a little bit, you know, the killer's maybe always trying to draw to you, you know, something that we haven't seen, some kind of industrial park, you know. I'm not trying to completely think, you know, Terminator 1, you know, throw him in a lava pit, but I think that would be a really cool idea. I think Ryder Games has a lot of really clever people in art design, and they can make this android just so menacing to take down. The next one is a lot more of something we've seen. It's from an IP that I would say is probably one of the modern classics at this point. I grew up watching it in the late 90s, and they have continued to make movies. And if you can't tell, I'm gonna taste this. I will tell you, so smooth, citrus, followed by some very light hops, a little dry, but it is a hazy, if you can't tell. My favorite IPA, hazies. You got recommendations for some hazies? I'll see if I can find them. Leave me a comment. We're talking, for the second one, we're talking some Scream. We're talking some Ghostface. We're talking, you know, Stab, whatever you want to call it. And I have some really cool ideas for this, because I'll tell you right now, I just watched the latest Scream movie. And watching that, I was like, this is a really cool idea. Something very common in Scream movies is the killer doesn't necessarily want to kill the final girl till the very end. So, you know, some kind of mechanic that is going to manipulate the board, give you challenges, make you play games. Can you save this victim in 2 turns? Something like that, you know, a phone call mechanism, something that will, you know, keep you running around, because maybe the killer's not on the board. Maybe there is no killer mini until it reveals itself at the very end. You know, maybe after so many victims are gone, all of a sudden, now you have a killer on the board. So you don't even really know which one of these is the killer. It could be in any location, and, you know, there could also be cards that say, hey, if there's more than 3 victims by themselves at this location, you know, all of a sudden now there's just one, you know. Basically saying somebody that you did not expect to be the killer has just now taken 2 victims off the board. So something like that, and also maybe something of a location like a high school. I mean, we haven't seen that yet. That would plug in so well with so many of these other killers. I mean, Dr. Fright, you know, Nightmare on Elm Street, school location would be good. Hans would work really good at a school location. I mean, we're looking at these other new ones right here. Even a couple of those would just be really fun to play in a location like that. I don't have anything too crazy for like mechanics for that, but I feel like you could dig into that and find some really cool elements to bring to that vignette. Not the vignette, that feature. We haven't got to the vignette yet. I have an idea for the vignette. And I think that would be fantastic. Okay, so that'd be my second one. And I'm not saying any of these necessarily would be ones I would ever expect to see in a complete set. And you'll kind of know why when I talk about 3 and 4. So number 3 that I would like to see in a future series, we haven't seen. we haven't seen too many monsters. We haven't seen, you know, anything necessarily huge to deal with. And what I'm thinking of is, let's think Tremors meets Dune. Like, we're talking a giant sandworm, some, you know, subterranean monster that surfaces, hitting spots, does AoE damage, you know, leaves holes in the location that maybe you can utilize for your benefit to maybe fast travel between locations, but also maybe one that gets bigger. And all of a sudden now when it surfaces, it's surfacing in multiple spots, and it's kind of got a timer element, you know it's coming, you can hear it, but it doesn't spend a lot of time above ground, which, you know, is good, but that's kind of why the AoE damage would be a huge deal, because anything around where it comes up would take damage, you included. I think that would be fantastic. I'm a huge fan of Dune, not so much of a fan of Tremors, but I think as far as a horror element, that would really kind of work. And then a really good location for that, some kind of farmhouse. We haven't seen that in the Final Girl series. I feel like farmhouses are pretty common backdrops for some horror movies, you know, even some ones that aren't necessarily farmhouses, you know, country property. Always very creepy, you know, when it's quiet out, you know, and you're in the middle of nowhere. And, you know, this would be one of those locations that would have, you know, multiple maybe small buildings, maybe even, you know, have some elements on there, farm elements that maybe have brought, you know, this killer worm to that location to do some damage, you know. And now I think that would be a very good entry into the Final Girl series, because like I said, I don't think we've seen too many monsters, and I think that would be a good one to add. So the next one I would like to talk about, going on to like my fourth feature, very similar, but it's more of a monster, but I think we could probably spin this more than just a monster. Let's think more of like what you would see in like Cthulhu games, because that's not really anything we've also seen in Final Girl, and I feel like that's a whole genre on its own, but a feature I think would be pretty good. And so what I'm thinking is some kind of giant sea monster. And you're thinking, well, a lot of these locations are land, how are you going to do that? Well, I mean, you could take any of those, and you know, you're on the USS Conrad, and you know, maybe all of a sudden you're on the USS Conrad, crashed into, you know, an ocean on an alien planet, and now you got this huge, you know, sea squid, whatever it is. And I feel like you could have an element where it's not necessarily ever on the board. It travels maybe around the board location, you know, maybe using some extra cards that you sit down to help with its movement, and then uses some tentacles that pop up and do damage. I think that would be a great entry into Final Girl. You know, something creepy. It would go on, like I said, kind of like this. Some terror from the deep, and maybe even have some kind of treasure mechanics. You know, every single time it hits somewhere, dropping off some items, making it more useful for you. And you know, we can have this maybe awesome ship. You know, this, I don't know if it needs to be you know, more of like a cruise ship or more like a shipwreck ship, but I think that would be a really cool element. You know, I don't think a shipwreck ship would really work super well. I think I would probably go for just more kind of like a standard, what we would see modern day. I think that would kind of go with what they're going on here. But needless to say, I think that would be a really cool theme to bring to the Final Girl, which leaves us with one left, one feature idea to talk about, and that is gonna be maybe pulling from some of those classic monster movies. I know a lot of people have talked about, you know, a vampire, you know, maybe Dracula, maybe Frankenstein, maybe something like that. But I think the coolest thing that I would like to add to that is maybe use all three of them. Maybe it's just a monster house. That would be crazy. You know, they've already done multiple killers on the same location, so maybe you got like some kind of monster's castle with, you know, a bunch of secret passageways. Maybe something where that map or that location never plays the same ever. You know, there's always some kind of random setup that allows you to travel around that map differently. And I know we kind of have a little bit of that on some other locations, but I mean like something where you really are pushing into that, you know, unique exploration every single time you play it. You know, maybe you can get lost. Maybe there's a lost mechanic. That would be cool. But yeah, really pushing into that classic monster movie, you know, from the 50s, stuff like that. So that is basically gonna put us back to one thing to talk about, and that is vignette. What would be a fantastic vignette we haven't seen? We've seen vignettes from Terror from Above. We've talked about Terror from Below. But what about Terror all around? What about something maybe reminiscent of The Purge? You know, where victims are the killers. They are attacking you. And they're not all attacking you, but maybe you are flipping specific victims and giving them some kind of killer profile, and then all of a sudden they are trying to survive the purge too. I think that would be a cool element. That's definitely going to be something from an IP a lot more recent. And I also think it would be a good opportunity to maybe mess with the mechanics of Final Girl a little bit. A lot of people have mentioned wanting some kind of variant to be able to play, you know, cooperative instead of solo. And don't get me wrong, I don't think they should make this a cooperative game. I think what they've done is great, fantastic, and I would gladly just sit somebody down and teach them to play and watch the experience, run the killer, run that stuff for them, and probably still have just as good of a time as if I was playing a two-player thing. My thought is, in a purge situation, you're gonna want a buddy. You're gonna want to take them along with you. So maybe this is the first situation where you could introduce having multiple Final Girls on one location, and in doing so would maybe give you a little bit of an opportunity in that vignette and in that design space to make it a two-player cooperative just for that vignette. You want to introduce someone to Final Girl, maybe that's a good opportunity. You know, usually the vignettes are relatively straightforward, and like I said, with it just being its own box, I think you can kind of change your design space a little bit to work in a cooperative game, also allowing you to control two Final Girls when you play true solo. I think it'd be fantastic. So yeah, Terror from Around, some kind of purge vignette, I think would be very, very cool. Some other things I think we could probably maybe speculate and talk about what they might be bringing in. We got a lot of content now. There's a lot of miniatures. You know, there's a lot of miniatures I think for promos that we don't have. So maybe having a promo miniature pack would be really cool. They've already done vehicles, so maybe getting, you know, those last couple characters, especially if they're going to put some promo characters in for Series 3. I think you add those in there, you know, what at this point, maybe a 5 or 6 pack promo. Not me for everybody, but it's an option for everybody that wants, you know, every Final Girl miniature. I think that'd be really cool to do. You know, other things, I think they could probably come out with their own dice trays. You know, I feel like they got a little bit of room in these maps, and you know, those neoprene style fold ones, maybe get some kind of Final Girl thematic, and maybe they already have one and I hadn't seen it yet, but I think it'd be cool. You know, just some really cool accessories to add to this series. But yeah, that's pretty much gonna wrap up my thoughts on what I would like to see in Final Girl Series 3. A lot of things to talk about, a lot of things to digest. And I assume, you know, I've heard a lot that we're going to maybe potentially get a lot of information around October. That would be fantastic. That'd be really, I think thematically it would work really well for this game to do some kind of crowdfunding launch around Halloween. I think they could really dive into that. They always really kind of dive into their campaigns as far as horror movies go and stuff like that. So I feel like that gives them an extra opportunity to do that. And I'm looking forward to it. So let me know if you guys are looking forward to it. Definitely follow the channel if you want more Final Girl stuff in the future. I will still be bringing it regardless, but I just gives me somewhat kind of idea how many of those Final Girl fanatics I have out there that are closely following some of these playthroughs. So that's pretty much going to wrap it up for me. And until next time, I hope every one of you has a fantastic day. And I will see you guys on the next playthrough, on the next unboxing, and on the next talk. Much love.